This week we'll be learning how to create a painting while simplifying the concepts of lighting and shadows. To my home studio where I share my passion for watercolor painting. I'm thrilled to have you join me this week as we explore the art of simplifying light and shadow in watercolors. Mastering this fundamental technique will enable us to easily create a variety of beautiful watercolor paintings. Before you go, be sure to hit the subscribe button to become a part of our learning community. By subscribing, you will receive weekly upload notifications and stay updated on our artistic journey together. Now, without further ado, let's get started, everyone. Before we jump on to applying a wash, let's analyze our reference. Personally, before I'm doing any kind of watercolor painting, I usually analyze my reference, where the light comes from and where the shadows are. So the easiest way to understand where the light coming and where the shadows are is to analyze the shadows first. And you can see this. I'm seeing where the cast shadows are. So it's casting the shadows on here. And you can see I'm also able to find the angle of it. And you'd be surprised, in reality, if you find this angle, and you can see that all the angles matches the shadows. So I know that by knowing this angle, I know the light is coming from here, on top left. And you can also see there's a brighter spot on the sky. There's a little bit of glow from the sun. And you can also see the shadows here, and this is the shadow side. So if I paint in watercolors, the first thing we would do is paint the base color of the brick. So I'm picking the color of the brick first. And I'll just make a... And if I pick the color of the shadow, and you can see this, it's a little bit darker. And let's go here. And you can see this. So we would paint in the first wash of the brick color. Then we will add the shadow on top of it. So this creates a little bit of realism as well as 3D, create a three-dimensional look in our painting. So I'm going to quickly show how this works in reality, and I'll try not to be neat, and because I want to show how this works in reality. And we'll just do the top of the building. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly select the fill. This looks darker. Let's see. And let's assume this is our brick color. And maybe I'll go a little bit red. There's a red here, here. Okay, I'll go a little bit red like that. And you can see that we kind of created this basic shape of our building. So I'm going to create another layer. Assume that light is coming from here, and we created this shadow. We created this light from the reference. So now let's apply shadows, and you can also create this base colors as well. So I'm going to pick something, and as I said, this is just I'm taking the light of this reference. I'm just painting it, and again I'm just doing it really fast so we can go and do the painting. And I'm also thinking about perspective and where the light is hitting and everything. So you can just do the first wash by putting the light of the color. So that's what I'm doing exactly. And I'll just do this poles. And I'll just do this poles. And there is also a corner pole as well. I'll just do this. And I'll just do this. And you can see that I applied the base color for the brick, and let me go and pick the base color of the brick properly. Now I go here. I'm going to fill that layer with the brick color. So now you can see that we kind of created this base color for the brick and the base color for the strips. Now let's add the shadows. So I'm going to create another layer. So it's my shadow, and I'm going to pick this color, the shadow color, and I'll just add the shadow like that. And I'll just put it down like that, and I can just add the shadows like that. And you can see this, by adding this, I'm just going to increase a little bit darker so you guys can see. And you can see that we kind of created the shadow just putting the base color from the brick. So I'll do the exact same thing here, and this side is going to be the shadow as well. So let's fill it like really fast. And you can see that in matter of seconds we analyze the light and the shadows. So if you do the same thing in our watercolors, we will be able to achieve light and shadows really fast. And you can see this also created a little bit of three-dimensional already. So let's add the shadows for this one, and you will be surprised as soon as we add the shadows for this one. I'm going to reduce my brush size. A little bit lighter. And this everything going to be in the shadow as well. And I can put some blue color in it, even a lighter blue. And you can see that we kind of added that the shadow for the trims as well. Now you can see that this everything what we added kind of creating this light and shadows. And like once we add the shadow for this one, and you'll be surprised. Let's go and add the shadow for this thing, which is casting here. So I'm adding the shadows for the trims because the shadows will be a different color than our bricks. So now let's add the shadow for the bricks as well, and you will see that I'm going to pick this color and I'm going to add the shadows for the brick. And I can also add something for windows. There's not going to be shadow. The shadows colors will be different because since it's not in the brick. And you can also bring the lights here all the way down. And you can see that in a matter of seconds we kind of created this light and shadows just by doing it. So now if I go here, if you want in watercolors, if you want, you can also reduce the light of it, and you can see this the light pops out more by doing a contrast. So this is what exactly we're going to layer in watercolors. And the possibility is endless here. So you have to simplify your reference in such a way that it's easier. You can analyze the lighting and the shadows, then you can slowly build up. And this will also add realism because even in the shadows there's a little bit of a darker value. So if I add the darker value, even it will create more three-dimensional depth for painting, and you will see it like that. And I'll just create like that. And maybe I'll go a little bit darker here, so it shows that it's in the shadow side. And you can see that in a matter of seconds we're able to create a lighting and shadows. So we will do the exact same thing. We will replicate the exact same thing in watercolors. And let's go and do that. I showed how to analyze light and shadows. Now let's take that concept and let's apply the same principles on watercolors. So in this video, I'm going to show how to layer the wash from the first wash, the base color or the light. Then we will add the shadows. Then we will take the details even further. So in this part of this video, I'll show how to doing the washes for the trims first. And you can see that there's a lot of subtle grays in it. And I'm also mixing a little bit of warmer colors here and there to get a little bit of variations in my watercolor painting. Sometimes when we paint, some of the paintings might look monotonous because of using the same color, but I'm trying to vary it whenever I do a first base wash. And even it's wet on wet, so if you can mix some colors, and it gives a really nice variation. And you can, I know that and this is the variation I was talking about, and I applied a little bit of orange on top of the trims, so just to have a little bit of color variation. And I know that the window is going to be darker, but I'm just applying a wash on top of it. And for the trims, I applied for the trims on top of it. So since we finished the first wash of it, now I'm adding the shadows. And this is what I was showing in Photoshop. First I laid the base wash, the base color of the trims and the top part. Now I'm adding the shadows. So I know that it's a sunny scene, so I'm making sure that I add some more warmer shadows and mixing colors here and there. I'm trying to combine everything as one shape as possible. And I also started from the bottom because I usually, in reality, the shadows at the bottom it's darker, and as it goes to the top, it gets lighter and lighter. So that's why I started on bottom left, and I slowly went to top, and I'm going to the right now. And you can also see that at the bottom, I'm also introducing a little bit of darker color. And there is this statue which is sitting on front part of the building. I'm now adding that, and I'm also mixing a lot of warmer shadows using purple and yellow ochre in it, and I'm trying to add that. But adding this gives a little bit of three-dimensional look on our building, but yet we can also add something called secondary shadows. So the secondary shadows are a little bit darker than the first pass of the shadows, and it also gives more three-dimensional look on our buildings. And that's why I combined this video in such a way that we are doing the first wash of the trim, and we are doing the first pass for the shadows, then we'll add the secondary shadows, that's a darker shadow on top of it, to give the three-dimensional look and creating lighting and shadows in watercolors. If you follow this process and if you follow this principle, it will make your painting simplify, as well as it also show your watercolor paintings more realistic. So now let's focus on adding the shadows on top of the trim. So you see that I left some eyelets for the top of the trim, and because the first base what we created, we can also leave some eyelets here and there to enhance a little bit of lighting in it, because usually at the top of the trims they usually get some eyelets. Also on the top right, I also combine into one single shape, and you can see that as soon as we add the details on top of it, everything comes alive. So this is the secondary shadow I was talking about, and I'm adding a little bit of a darker tone on top of it. And since it's a wet on wet, it bleeds and creates this beautiful blurry shadows on top of it. And this is the exact same thing I showed in Photoshop, adding a little bit of a darker value inside that triangle shape. And as soon as we add that, you can see that it gives a more three-dimensional look, and it also makes it look realistic. And now let's go and add another darker tone on top of it. And this is the one I started with bottom left, and I'm slowly bringing it down. Since I'm also adding a darker shadow, I'm also adding it on the windows at the bottom part, and you can see that this also enhances a little bit of more depth in our shadows as well. And I'm also adding the darker shadows at the top, at the bottom of the trims of the triangle shape. And I'll keep building it by increasing the shadow depth and value. So the easiest way to do is to squint your eyes and try to see where the darker values are and combine it. So now let's, I showed you how to paint the trims, the pillars, and now let's do the first wash for the brick. As I said, I'm doing this video in such a way that showing how to paint the light first, then adding the shadow, and adding the secondary shadow and the tertiary details. And this is why you have to think before you paint in watercolors is which I can layer first. I would have layered the brick first, or the trim and the pillars first, or else you would have I did the other way around. So it's up to artist preference, but you have to have a little bit of planning. And again, think in terms of light and shadows. Don't think about you're painting a building or anything else. And I can know that on the right hand side, you can also go a little bit darker on this side, because this is going to be on the shadow side. I'm also combining it, and you can see that I also left some white bits for the street sign, which is also sitting on the top right of the building. So I'm also adding the first pass for the windows, mine as well. I'll show you how to do it, and I'm using a little bit of blue and a tinge of French Ultramarine blue in it to get a darker shadow. And you can see that I know this is a darker value, so I know that I layered my first wash for the pillars and the trims, and even at the bottom I know that it's lighter value, so on top of it I can slowly build up my value. And you can see this, you can also start with this value as well. So now let's focus on the shadows of the building, and this is the exact first thing we did in Photoshop as well, adding shadows on the top of the trim. And I know that on this side, right hand side, it's going to be as one single shape. I'll try to combine it as fast as possible. And you can also see that the pillars also casting shadow on below the triangle shape, and I'm also adding that. And there's also this white trims which is also casting shadow. So I'm trying to casting the shadow in a such a way for the bricks as well as for the trims and pillars. And you can see that as soon as we add the shadow for the brick on the right hand side, you can see it gives a more three-dimensional look for our building already. Let's use the same principle on the streetcar as well. I'll start with the first wash. So the first wash, I'm going to mix the red, and I'm just going to try to do it. And this is just thinking about light, not to try add shadows or anything else. And I'm making sure I'm getting the vibrancy bit. And you can also see I took some clean brush and I wiped out some paint on top of it just to create that there is sun aiding on top of it. And I'm also leaving some white bits at the bottom part of it, and I'm just focusing on the red base color first, the light. So now let's go and add the shadows, which is on the right hand side behind the building. And I also wet the paper on the edges to get a softer edge, and as you can see it, and we got like a really nice softer edge on the right hand side already. So I'll do the same thing, and I also want to get a little bit of this shadows which is going across on top of the streetcar. And there's also this shadow, since it's a rounder form, so the shadow is going to be lighter on one side and it's going to be darker on the other side, but it's going to be a blurry shadow. And you can see as soon as we add that blurry shadow, it shows the 3D form of streetcar already. And I'm just going to make the shadows a little bit darker to create more three-dimensional look on my streetcar. So now I'm going to add the shadows for the white part. So whenever light hits the white part, and it's going to be a grayish color, so I'm trying to add that. And once I added that, you could see that we already created light and shadows in our streetcar. And if I squint my eyes, there's also a lot of darker shadows in it, so I'm trying to create that now. So that will be so I'm going to leave the light which I painted before for the wash as the reflection from the sky and reflection from the buildings which is across. And I'll leave some white bits here and there and put some little bit of blue in it to get the reflection feeling from the sky. And just by adding that, you could see it enhanced the three-dimensional look for the streetcar already. So it's a simple process. So you think about light and shadows and you slowly layer it and slowly increase the value for it. So now I'm going to add the shadows for the streetcar to anchor it on the ground. And there's a lighter shadow in the front and it gets darker as it goes back. And as soon as I added that, you can see the streetcar is also sitting on the ground already. So now I'm also adding the secondary shadows, or the secondary darker part on the shadows on the reflection as well. And these are the tertiary details. I'll wait till the end before I add those. And these are the street wires, street poles and everything. So I'm going to add some wires here and there. And you can see this also helps you to take us into the painting, and it also focuses the composition on the streetcar and the building, not the rest of the painting by itself. And I also don't paint this as it is. I try to explore because I want to express my medium as I want it, and I don't want to get caught with reference. Even though in my reference there's a little bit of pigeons there, so there wasn't any pigeons sitting on the foreground, and I don't want the foreground element to be a little empty. So I add this pigeons in Photoshop, and I save the image, and I'm also adding that in here as well to create more realism and composition element to take us into the painting. So this is how the painting looks like, the lighting and shadow, and it just shows the really good atmosphere of the reference, and we capture the essence of it, and it does tell a really nice story. So now it's your turn. Take your own reference, or you can use my reference and apply the principles of what I showed today, and let's see what you can come up with. Thank you once again for watching this painting tutorial. Please feel free to share your thoughts on the video in the comment section below. If you have any other water related topics you would like me to cover, reach out to me at watercolorimpression@gmail.com or leave a comment down below. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, and be sure to hit the subscribe button to become a part of our learning community together. By subscribing, you will receive weekly upload notifications and stay updated on our channel, and share with your fellow artists, friends and family. And good luck with your painting, folks.